All right, welcome back to Buck What You Heard, Southbound and Down edition. We're talking about the NFC South. It's not just the Bucks, it's not just the Saints, not the Carolina Panthers. It's everybody. Atlanta Falcons. We've got everybody a flavor for you, depending on who you like. So I do want to get started here and introduce my esteemed colleagues. Aaron Freeman, I'm going to start with you. Please introduce yourself and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Aaron Freeman, host of the Locked on Falcons podcast, founded a Falcon fan site many years ago named falcfans.com. Defunct, RIP. As I say, you can follow me on Twitter at FalcFans. You can get my written content at the Falcoholic, the SB Nation website for the Atlanta Falcons. That's where you can find me every day on Locked on Falcons, pretty much talking Falcons.
Yeah, and again, if you want an honest opinion about the Atlanta Falcons, this is a guy I suggest you follow him. And what is your how would people get a hold of it? And that's at Falcoholics.
Falcoholics, the website for my written content. Locked on Falcons, you can find that on Twitter. You can find that on pretty much any podcast platform. But Falc fans, if you want my Twitter.
Awesome. Bob Rose. Bob Rose, writer for we're with Sports Illustrated. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, first, gentlemen, it's an honor to be on the panel with you tonight. Thank you, listeners and viewers, for tuning in. My name is Bob Rose. I've been covering the New Orleans Saints since 2016. Started with the Big Easy Believer and the late, great Barry Hurstis. May he rest in peace. Then moved on to Canal Street Chronicles, before catching on, with Kyle Mosley and the Saints News Network about 2 years ago now. And the Saints News Network covers the New Orleans Saints for the Sports Illustrated team page. So you can find all of us at Saints News on Twitter, Saints News Network pretty much on every other forum, or the SI.com New Orleans Saints team page. I can be followed on Facebook. Just look for Bob Rose, and this ugly mug will pop up, or jump over to Twitter at BobbyR2613. I share all of my written content on my personal pages as well as the Saints News Network sites.
Man, that is awesome. And Evan Winter, my man, friend of the show, how you doing? Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Gene. It's my absolute pleasure to be here at Evan_Winter. You can find me on Sports Illustrated's allbucks.com. And then every now and then, I dabble on RockyTopTalk.com and host of the Believe in Bucks podcast, which is part of Believe.com. But mainly on Twitter, that one app that we all kind of know, kind of are familiar with, at Evan_Winter.
Yeah, it's the tie that binds, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to say the best for last. My guy, Tony Dunn, who the originator, the creator of Southbound and Down. It's an honor to be able to use that in my title because, Southbound and Down, it was ahead of its time. And it's something that I hope that at some point we can bring back. I really enjoyed doing that. Just, being on a panel with the NFC South because we were kicking everybody's ass for 6 ways to Sunday, and that's just how it was. And it's great to have you on here, sir. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me on. I got to say that the parents, the mamas of these panel members raised these people right. That was like the most cordial introductions that everybody gave. Welcome. Honored to be here. Now I love you guys. Bob Rose, good to see you, my man. Aaron, you're going to return my damn DM sometime, homie. Good God. Nice to meet you, my friend. So look, it's fun. The internet's taking off right now. And if we would have really kind of envisioned what Southbound and Down could have been for a long time, man, it would probably been in a dope spot. So maybe we could bring that back. Tony Dunn here covers, and I'm just a fan of the Carolina Panthers, dude. So we have the C3 Panthers podcast that rocks and rolls. It seems like every damn night almost. It feels like, isn't it a labor of love, Aaron? I felt like when you were talking about the things you did, you're like, God, I love and hate this crap all at the same time.
But guys, we got to go back. We're gonna rewind back to 2014. And we can all say that in 2014. No, I'm gonna finish this here. The New Orleans Saints had Drew Brees. The Atlanta Falcons had that wide receiver core and the running back core that they had. And and you know, even the Carolina Panthers, Cam Newton, and just the squad that they had, everybody was progressing except for, you know, the 1-win Bucks at that time in Southbound and Down. But I showed up, man, because you know you love your team. You said labor of love, and it's really interesting how things have progressed to where they are. But you know, I really want people to get an idea of what's going on in the NFC South. Don't I hate when people listen to the NFL Network or ESPN. Yeah, I'm going to call them out. They're not invested in their teams like you guys are. You guys stay focused on what's going on here. You don't get caught up in any of the narratives, and you just focus on your team and what your team is doing, good or bad or otherwise. You guys are focused on that. And I'm going to give you an example. Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas was up for a contract renewal. And there was a story that was like, oh, Michael Thomas is mad with the New Orleans Saints. But I talked to Bob Rose. Bob Rose is like, you know what? Don't listen to these clowns. They don't know what they're talking about. And sure enough, when everything worked out, Michael Thomas re-signed with the New Orleans Saints. There was an issue, you know, I think it was last year, and there was supposed to be some kind of disruption or something going on with the New Orleans Saints, but that wasn't the case. And these are examples of what I'm talking about, where you're more invested in your team. You understand your team a whole lot more. These guys that are running their mouths and they have these narratives out there, they don't know what's going on compared to what you know. So these are the examples that I'm talking about. And that's why I can talk with you guys, because you know your team. You're not going to make excuses for your team. Hey, this is what our team needs to do. And, you know, so on and so forth. But I do want to kick this off. And Aaron, I'm going to start with you. And then Evan, I'll go to you next. But, and, you know, a scorecard, how would you look at your team from the beginning of the season to now? How is your team doing? And are they meeting your expectations, or are there things that they can do better? I'd like to get an idea of where the Atlanta Falcons are right now.
Well, in terms of doing things better, they could do everything better. But they're trending in the right direction. You know, this is kind of a must-win game for them this Sunday against San Francisco to have any chance of making the playoffs. I don't necessarily have my hopes up that they'll pull it off, but I certainly think they have a chance to on Sunday. And if they win that game, then there's a realistic, you know, it becomes real that the Falcons could sneak their way into the playoffs and basically get the brakes beat off of them in the first round by whoever that 2 seed is. So that's kind of the hope that you look forward to, that you can sit here and have a statement win on Sunday. And that's been kind of the story of the Falcons season. They started off a little rocky at the beginning of the season, thing started to hit their stride and then kind of hit the skids a little bit. And now they're kind of getting back into form and hopefully can start playing their best football over this final month of the season. Their defense, after really struggling for most of the season, has played pretty well the last couple of games. Their offense, while still a little bit inconsistent, they've been able to start running the ball effectively a lot more and being a little bit more of a balanced attack. And that's allowed them to at least be good enough with the improvement of the defense these last couple of weeks to be a little bit more competitive and win a couple of these games. And so whether or not that can sort of all come together for them this weekend and beat the 49ers and then have a chance to beat the Lions at home and finally win a game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They haven't done that since I think like the beginning of November of last year. And then they got Buffalo and then, you know, a home game Bob's looking forward to against New Orleans at the end of the season. So they got some opportunities this last, you know, 4 weeks of the season to put together their best football. And that will certainly lead a lot of people, I think, to look at this season as a very successful season in the first year of Arthur Smith, even though if you sort of rode the highs and the lows of the roller coaster, it may have been a little bit rocky, you know, throughout the first 3 months of the year.
You know, I want to jump in real quick, and guys, you can all chime in whenever you want to. Kadero Patterson has been a blessing to the Atlanta Falcons. Just the way that he's playing and the way that the coaching the way the coaches are using him compared to the way they've used him, you know, early on in his career. I think this is probably a career year for him.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
and just what the way that they and he's kind of fit into this, and he's made the most of this. And so when I look at the Atlanta Falcons, I think he's a plus for Matt Ryan. I expected a little bit more from Matt Ryan when you have that Kadero Patterson and Davis is your other running back. I expected a little bit more. Is it injuries, or is it lack of talent, or execution, or what is it right now with Matt Ryan in this offense, for the Atlanta Falcons?
A lot of it is not having Julio Jones. Another big chunk of it is not having Calvin Ridley, who's away from the team dealing with some mental health stuff. Mm-hmm. That certainly hurts your ability.
Oh, absolutely.
And, we've seen Matt Ryan go through these sort of inconsistencies the last couple of years whenever he's had a new offensive coordinator, whether that was Kyle Shanahan in 2015 or Steve Sarkisian 2017, Dirk Cutter in 2019. He gets a new offensive coordinator. They give him some new weapons, and he's not necessarily Matt Ryan's a creature of comfort, really. And so if he's comfortable with the play calling, he's comfortable with the weapons he's throwing to, and he had that sort of security blanket with Julio Jones for the last decade. He doesn't have that right now. Kyle Pitts has been great, but he, as a rookie, he hasn't been that guy that on a 3rd and 8 you can always rely on being the guy that's going to get open and make a play like Julio Jones has basically done for the last decade. Kyle Pitts isn't quite there yet, but he's been outstanding other than that. And I think that will come with time. But because of that, you see Matt Ryan being a little bit uncomfortable, making some uncharacteristic mistakes. He's had some issues, with some decision making and maybe reading defenses the last couple of weeks, which is only making some of their other issues more problematic with, not having the talent at the wide receiver position, some of the blocking stuff. So it's a lot of factors, but I think, a lot of it is just basically the typical first year jitters that Matt Ryan has had in the last couple of times the Falcons have changed coordinators now with head coach Arthur Smith. And my expectations is those things will sort of get smoothed out next year when they can sort of add a little bit more talent, improve the offensive line, and, see what Kyle Pitts can grow into, and hopefully get Calvin Ridley back to be that more security blanket that he needs.
Right. And well, if I can jump in real quick, Aaron, I mean, like when they took Kyle Pitts, they had Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley on the roster, so just like how he factored into the entire offensive equation, it's all now solely on him. I mean, Zacchaeus is a decent, target as a depth guy. Russell Gage has shown, flashes, especially against Tampa Bay, that he can be, a good 3rd option. But it's just like Arthur Smith walked into this season, or took the job rather, I should say, thinking probably, and I don't know what he was thinking of Julio Jones at the time he took the job, but hey, I'm going to have these 3 legitimate targets, coming out of the draft. And then all of a sudden it's Kyle Pitts as the last man standing. And just to get your thoughts on that reverberation, I'm interested to know.
Yeah, well, with Julio, he kind of knew that Julio wasn't going to be around because his agent is the same as Julio's agent. So he kind of took that's been sort of the thing that we learned, once we all discovered that Julio didn't want to play for the Falcons anymore. That was like Arthur Smith probably knew that ahead of time, which probably was a contributing factor to why they went after
makes sense.
a player like Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
So he kind of knew that it was going to be the Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley show. And, obviously not having Calvin Ridley has certainly impacted things. Although, to be fair, like Calvin Ridley wasn't exactly lighting it up before he stepped away from the game. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to figure out to try to get Calvin Ridley back to what he looked like a year ago when he looked like he was one of the 10, best receivers in the game. So it has been a struggle for this team to make that adjustment, losing both of those players in Julio and Calvin. But yeah, I think you're right. Like basically it's all on Kyle Pitts to basically be the guy. And he's just not there yet. He'll get there one day. But fortunately, Cordero Patterson has stepped up and the running game stepped up. And as you mentioned, Russell Gage has looked really good the last couple of weeks. So they're able to make do, filling that sort of gap right now. And hopefully they can, continue to do that as the rest of the season goes.
Is Matt Ryan going to be their guy for the immediate future? I mean, let's address the elephant in the room here. All kinds of rumors, at least surrounding the Falcons, looking at it as an outsider. I've been through it with Drew Brees. Tony's been through it with Cam. Is Matt Ryan the guy in 2022?
I'm pretty confident Matt Ryan's going to be back in 2022. I think the question is going to be, is he going to be back beyond that? And I think that's going to depend a lot on how he performs, how the team performs in 2022. I think this upcoming season, it's a down quarterback class. I think they're going to draft a quarterback at some point, but they're not going to draft, I don't think, a guy high enough where you're going to be like, that guy's going to be the immediate replacement for Matt Ryan, like they had a potential opportunity to do this past year at that 4th overall spot. But we'll see how it all plays out. But I think Matt Ryan's pretty safe for 2022. It's just going to be a question beyond that, where it's just kind of be at this point in time a kind of a year-to-year situation, because the Falcons aren't like the Saints were, where you had this sort of established team that you knew each and every year those last couple of years was going to go to the playoffs. And so it was basically, winning the Super Bowl was the goal there. The Falcons are just basically trying to get back into the postseason. And that seems right now to be a tough nut for them to crack, not only this year, but potentially next year when the schedule gets a lot tougher. So I think it's just going to be a year-to-year, kick that can down the road with Matt Ryan. And basically when they have the opportunity to move on from him, both financially and have a heir apparent, in place, maybe that's a draft pick next year, maybe it's a draft pick the year after, then they'll probably move on from Matt Ryan and he'll, hopefully be able to find some success wherever he winds up landing at that point in time.
It looks like he's got 2 years left on his contract, right? I mean, he signed through 2023, and he's still got somewhere of looks like $35 million guaranteed, 48. Yeah, 35 left guaranteed to him, right? So 16 guaranteed, I believe. No, 24 prorated bonus next year, 24 million. And then his salary is 16. He has $40 million still guaranteed money on his contract, which means that, if you cut him, I mean, you can't cut him.
No.
And to be honest, I don't even know how you trade him.
Well, you can't,
because that guaranteed money doesn't go away. You would have to eat it still.
I think, I talked about this on a recent Locked On Falcons where, I think the plan, my guess is, and again, we'll see what happens, but my guess is they'll restructure him for the 28th time next year and free up some cap space. And what that will do is lock him into 2022, and that will leave about maybe 23 or so million left on in 2023. And given that he'll have a $50 million cap hit, they can feel good about, even though that's going to be a lot of dead money if they wind up trading him. But we saw the Eagles do that with Carson Wentz with $33 million.
Right.
So I feel like the Falcons know that they can move on from Matt Ryan, save a bunch of money. You're going from 50 to 25 or so. So you're saving over $25 million or something. So you can do that move if you do wind up trading him. The question is going to be, if you're in a position to do that, that's probably a year where Matt Ryan necessarily doesn't step up. And so does he really have great trade value at that point in time?
Right.
If you're picking in the top 10 in the 2023 draft class and you're drafting your quarterback, is Matt Ryan coming off another sort of middling year? And so are you basically trading him, basically for pennies on a dollar? Maybe you get some mid-round picks or something like that. And that's not going to be ideal at that point in time. But I think at that, if they're in a situation, that may be the best possible situation for them, where they're just going to have to, bite that bullet and just take the cap savings and just hope moving forward that they can use those assets and that money to surround, whatever the young quarterback is. So I hope that they're not in that position. I hope that they bounce back and are a much better team next year, so that is not a consideration for them. But obviously there's certainly a possibility sitting here today.
What's interesting to me, and maybe you can correct me here. I remember Justin Fields was on the table, and I have to address this. And they had the opportunity to get him. Is it because of his contract that Atlanta did not pull the trigger on getting a future quarterback under, in the fold, so that they can, kind of groom him and get him ready for where he would be able to step in when Matt Ryan was going to go ahead and move on, whether he moved on or whether he retired or whatever happened. Is that part of it? Is that what happened here? Is that you were looking at Matt Ryan's contract and you knew that there's not a whole lot you could really do with him, and it just at that point it wasn't a good look for the Atlanta Falcons at that point?
Yeah, I think that's it. The official party line is that they took the best player available and they like Kyle Pitts more than they like Justin Fields. I think that's probably true. There's certainly, I think, this element of that is true, but I think probably also a contributing factor, maybe possibly a bigger contributing factor, is what we're kind of talking about, where it's like Matt Ryan's contract is structured where it's really 2023 is the earliest that they can really get out of that contract. Mm-hmm. And so basically drafting Justin Fields and sitting him for 2 years behind Matt Ryan, which would be ideal for Justin Fields' development, would be great for him in terms of his long-term potential. Right. But that wouldn't necessarily, you'd be looking at a Falcons team right now, without really much, around Matt Ryan. And so it would be a situation where you would not get great value out of that pick, and
it would have created a quarterback controversy at some point.
Yeah,
because the way that Matt Ryan's playing, and I'm not questioning that in any way, but if you got somebody that you've drafted that high, fans are going to want to clamor for him to be under center at some point.
Yeah, I think
it's a perfect way to do it, though. It's a perfect way to do it. I mean, I wanted the Panthers to do that.
Dealt with it, they had taken Justin Fields. Is probably given how slow a start they had this season. People would have been like, "Well, you started 1-3. Mm-hmm. Why not throw Fields out there?" And that just wouldn't have been.
But then you should have a leadership. This is the deal with the Panthers: is that you need to have leadership that has vision and balls or backbone enough to know what they want to do, rather than just bending to. Not the fan, the fan will, the kind of like resolve. We all know, man. You don't know who a team is through 6 games. We don't even know half these teams through 13.
Or 2021. We don't know shit.
I mean, and it's like, this year's been the parity's been insane. Yeah. So I wanted Panthers to take an offensive lineman in our draft, but that sit behind you guys were even a better situation to do it than us, I think, in a way. Higher pick. New coach coming in that maybe could, maybe he wasn't in love with anybody, but Matt Ryan, there's like a great tutor. He's gonna catch his money. He would try to play great, and then you can kind of try to trade him the next year or something like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just look at it this way: Bucs fans right now are pissed that the Bucs took Kyle Trask in the 2nd round. Yeah. If they're this mad because he's been inactive for every single game. Just imagine how pissed Falcons fans would be if Justin Fields was taken in the 1st round and had to sit for 2 years.
And realistic,
I'm not trying to speak for all fans here, but I think fandom kind of has a equilibrium amongst.
No, Fields is a local Atlanta kid. Like the minute Matt Ryan threw 1 interception, he would have been booed off. Like that's just the way it is, and it would have been. I think, from my perspective, it would have been the right move in the long-term interest of the Falcons, but it would have created basically a lot of drama.
Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. I mean, there, boom. There you go. I mean, that tells you. But Philadelphia fans are a different breed. We shouldn't compare all fans.
They either young. Well, guys, I want to switch gears here. I do want to get over to the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to circle back around to everybody here, but I thought I would go to the Bucs, but I think I'm going to go to the Carolina Panthers. So much intrigue. Joe Brady, a guy that I liked. I even co-signed for Joe Brady last year. Am I right? Tony Dunn, I co-signed for him. Hey, this is the guy that you guys need to get this team going to where they need to. There's so much mystery with the Carolina Panthers. Tony, what's going on, man? What's going on in Carolina?
Disasters. What's going on? I mean, the worst possible scenario you could ever imagine is it was actually inconceivable that this season could be at this point. And I know that may sound strange given the fact that we have 5 wins and we've met the win total of last year. But to be honest, we don't deserve 5 wins. This team looks worse. It looks like the whole future of this team is in peril at this moment, which I know that sounds dramatic. But Joe Brady, inexperienced and was cast off. Right now is that the Panthers front office, including the coach, everybody on that coaching staff, they're in a lifeboat right now. And there were too many people on that lifeboat, and someone had to get cast off. And it was either no one gets cast off and everybody sinks, or we cast someone off and maybe we live to fight another day or swim. I'm telling you, Matt Rule right now, I cannot believe how bad it is. And this is what's happened, is that the Panthers have gone against what they promised us. They promised when they brought in Matt Rule that they were going to hire, that this was not going to be a fast thing, that we were going to build it the right way, and kind of invest in a process. And they said all the right things and then did not do those things at all. You want to talk about a team that has bent to the fan will or every way the wind blows? That is the Carolina Panthers and Matt Rule, man. It has been bizarre, is that at the end of the day, Joe Brady did not have a ton of experience. We buy into these narratives that people are going to be great and fantastic or whatever because somebody said it and it caught wind and they're young and you want to have the next Sean McVay or whatever that may be. And I don't even want to trash Joe Brady. Is that I said last year that as long as he put together an offense that looked composed and adequate, I would be happy and watch him grow as a coordinator. I don't need him to be a savant from day one. But the Carolina Panthers coaching staff has regressed. They've lost the locker room with these players. They are like Matt Rule right now is flailing around like a drowning person, grabbing onto anything. And the fact is they I think the Sam Darnold trade may ultimately be the kind of the thing that kills Matt Rule, because it's not that Sam Darnold needed to be good. It's not even that even anybody thought he was going to be good. But the problem is we have one pick in the first 3 rounds next year. Right now we took one step forward last year, and then we got our defense young, fast and competitive. Not great, right? They're kind of a fool's gold defense to a certain degree, but we took 4 steps back this year, and the promise of our future development is the problem. It's not even this season. So that's the kind of scary thing right now. Matt Rule doesn't look like he has the support of the players. He certainly doesn't have the fan base behind him, and Tepper at this point has looked to be an owner who is easily swayed into making a change. So I would have told you this, guys, if we came on this show at the beginning 6 months ago, I'd say there's no way Matt Rule loses his job this year, right? Like he could go 2-4, 2-15, and he will be coaching in 2023. But despite the not going 2 and, we're 5 and whatever it is right now, I guess 5 and 7. It feels like we're 2-15, and they don't like the plan and the vision isn't there. So I'd actually be surprised if Matt Rule was a coach in 2022.
I need to step in here real quick and ask this question. How do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10 about the quality of talent that you have here at Carolina? Because this is my thing. If your running back, Christian McCaffrey, is healthy, 100% healthy, and he's balling, it's a totally different scenario. And we saw this with Teddy Bridgewater. I know you're not going to agree with me on this, but we saw this with Teddy Bridgewater. If Christian McCaffrey is healthy, you're looking at a totally different team. I mean, you cannot deny that. Just because of the level of talent that this kid has, you cannot deny what he can do to turn around an offense. And the fact that you don't have him, totally changes the whole dynamic of your offense, and you're having to go a totally different direction. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse, but I can tell you right now, with Christian McCaffrey on the field, he changes the dynamic of everything. And I'm going to give you an example. Kansas City versus Carolina last year. Christian McCaffrey is on the field, even 2 quarters, Carolina wins that game. And I'll argue that with anybody.
All right. So I mean, look, I agree. I mean, look, I understand that. Look, injuries happen to teams.
Yeah, 100%.
Having players, and having like the best player, arguably in the NFL, in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I won't say that, but I mean, you could make an argument that he's like the best running back. I mean, when you had a 1,000 yard season, he's dynamic, man. He is great. But at the end of the day, man, he only changes the team, but so much, like in one way, is, and as my co-host says, is if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. Yeah, so ifs and buts is, the thing is if Sam Darnold was good, we would be better.
Right.
If the offensive line was better and not a train wreck. It's so bad. Look, we had one guy, right? And I don't care. I don't know how you guys feel about PFF grades. I don't even really care. I just look at the eyeball test on this stuff. But we had one guy that got a 0 this year. Like, how do you get a 0? You know what I'm saying? Like a 0. He didn't even write his name on his test.
I don't know if y'all watch the show Secession on HBO, but I feel like Joe Brady was the Tom Wamsgams of Secession this year and offering himself. Well, I don't even know if he offered himself up like Tom did, but like the one guy who's going to get laid out on the chopping block, whenever there needs to be a blood sacrifice.
And Tony will tell
there needed to be a sacrifice, but here's the thing: it wasn't good, period, and that's where it comes back to the coaching staff here. Or I would think Matt Rule. We just got a new GM in the offseason, Scott Fitterer, and we kind of made it look is that none of the offensive line got better. No. Quarterback play got worse. We have they've now struck out on quarterbacks 3 times. I mean, I think there's an argument for 4. You cut Cam prematurely, not because he was going to be good, but because you were rebuilding, and now you got to go a different way. You paid Teddy Bridgewater, you overpaid him on a 3-year contract. And it's not that Teddy Bridgewater wasn't a decent quarterback that can get you through as a bridge. That's actually a decent idea. The problem is you committed 3 years, $67 million to him, and then you traded him, and then you quit on him. And look, him and Joe Brady seemingly didn't. Some people are saying they weren't on the same page. He was critical of the coaching staff. But here is that's the thing. All right. So I didn't like Teddy Bridgewater because I'm a Cam stan, man. I'm a Cam sexual, as we say. Yep. But the thing is that once you paid Teddy Bridgewater, then they just moved on from him on their own. So they did not the fans who were upset with Teddy Bridgewater. And then they go and get Sam Darnold, and it's another swing and miss. And to be honest, now you're trying to trot Cam out there and throw him under the bus.
Was that lateral move, or was that a downgrade?
Down.
Bridgegrade. Okay.
Down because we gave up draft picks too. So I mean, not only does he suck, I mean, he's worse. I mean, he's bad, and I mean, he sucks, and we gave up draft picks for it. And then now you bring back Cam and you put him in this bizarre situation. And now they're kind of being critical of him. It's just a mess. And here's the thing is that the Panthers, like I said, they promised us a rebuild in the right way. And they haven't done it the right way. First of all, you hired a coach before you hired the GM. My philosophy on this is you hire both of them together.
Right.
You got to bring them in together. They live and die together, man. You bring in a GM, and then that GM picks his coach, and you say this, is that when you fire that coach, you're fired. I mean, this is y'all. I mean, this is you together, because then you don't have the infighting of a coach saying, well, you ain't give me the right talent. And then the GM saying, you get all if you just look at Philadelphia or the Jets or wherever the hell you look at that these
Tampa
teams.
Bay before.
Look, let me break this down. And Evan, you're spot on. Lovie Smith was brought in as the coach. Jason Light came in as the general manager.
Right. I'm not gonna lie. I'm shocked Jason Light lasted up until Tom Brady. I mean, how many GMs in this league survive 3?
Bruce Arians made that a thing.
I mean, I know. We know, up to this point, but still at the same time, the fact that Jason was able to even be around to have Bruce Arians as a possibility through 2 failed head coaches. I mean, man, that just doesn't happen in this league, no matter what the circumstances are.
And to that point, Evan, you have to kind of go back to Rich McKay. Rich McKay had Sam Weish. He had Sam Weish. Then he had Tony Dungy. Then he had John Gruden, and they won a Super Bowl. Here, you had Lovie Smith, then you had Dirk Cutter, then you had Bruce Arians, then you win a Super Bowl. It's kind of that parallel right there.
I just want to finish this one point about the kind of building process with the GM to the all right, so fine, we do that backwards or whatever, but then here's the thing: is that the Panthers drafted all defense last year, and you know what? It kind of worked out, man. Is like we all of a sudden we went from really bad on defense to pretty darn good all of a sudden, or decent. I think that our defense is overrated. I would say, who the hell have we stopped, and have we stopped anybody when it matters? But I like the direction that was heading. But here's the thing: is that there's really two giant weaknesses on this team. The offensive line is a disaster, and the quarterback continues to be a disaster. And in this draft, you didn't address either. And not that I needed you to pick a quarterback to make me feel better. But we picked J.C. Horn, who's going to be a dog, man. I'm telling you, he's going to be a great player. But it doesn't matter if he's going to be a great player. We need an offensive line. And we passed on Rashawn Slater because our coach is addicted to measurements. So he probably thought he was like graded out to be a guard because his arms are too short.
Right.
And then if even this is we could have stuck with Teddy Bridgewater. I guess they ruined that relationship. We could have stuck with him and drafted Justin Fields and groomed him. But now, guess what? We're no closer. We moved the goalpost farther down the road because next year, who cares if our defense is any good? We're going to have a shit offensive line unless we might go buy it now that the free agency the number jumped to 208.
What are you guys looking at?
Hey, you might be able to get Ryan Jensen or Alex Kappa from the Bucks. You never know.
Or Terrence, is it Armstead?
Oh yeah,
from the Saints. That is the guy I'm already eyeing. I'll ask you, Bob. Should we go buy him?
Yeah, as long as you have a backup plan for at least 6 games. I mean, Teron Armstead is really as good as they come. But he's a glass body. Okay. He's never played a 16-game season. Now 17.
That's not what you want to hear on the offensive line.
No, it isn't. When he's on the field, he's literally a shutdown guy. He'll shut down the best pass rushers in the league. But you can bank on him missing at least 4 to 5 games during the regular season. That's just all there is to it.
That sucks. So I think the Panthers could have turned it around if they would have built better this way, and thought. But somehow and this is what I always get is that people talk shit about fans for being fanatics and crazy and stuff. But it turns out that front offices ain't that far off from us sometimes. And they went out and went after the shiny toys this year. They got J.C. Horn, which I think is cool. I mean, we know what a shutdown corner can do to a defense. It changes the game. That's one I'll be okay with. But when your offensive line stinks, quarterback situation's a mess, I don't know how you do it. Second of all, we drafted Terrence Marshall Jr. in the second round. And God bless, I hope he becomes the greatest player ever. But this second round pick hasn't had but like 4 catches all season. Which, okay, I'm not even upset with him, but we didn't get any offensive linemen. We drafted Brady Christensen in third, and we don't even like to play him. So it's just a disaster right now because we're not getting better, and that's all we wanted. We just wanted to get one step better, and we've gotten 5 steps worse.
Real quick, and I just want to cut you off right there. What is it going to take for Carolina to be competitive in your mind? I won't say competitive. They are competitive. But what's it going to take that next step for the Carolina Panthers? Is it the quarterback position? Because no,
it's what every team on this podcast has had to do when they have stunk. And that is adopt the Donald Trump build that wall motto, which we have been calling for forever. Build that damn wall for the quarterback. You already ruined Cam Newton.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, build the wall and look at what teams, look, all teams go through this that have been good and then go to suck, right? Look at what the Saints did. The Saints were really good and then they went to kind of suck. And guess what they did? They built a damn offensive line.
Yep.
The Bucks, same thing. Y'all sucked. And then you built the offensive line and you added Tom Brady and got better. And that's one of the things we passed on Tristan Riffs last year. We passed on Mekhi Becton. So build that wall. Build that wall. I mean, like, you got to stop these illegal immigrants trying to sack our quarterback all the time.
Dude, trust me, like the Bucks taught me what bad offensive play means. Like I've watched this team since the mid
2014.
'90s. They have had maybe an above average offensive line, maybe twice. 2015 and 2007 rings a bell.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, though, they have been above average,
But
top 10, whatever
you
you
got
want
to
to say.
factor in the quarterback there.
Right. Granted, Brady's tendency, or not his tendency, his
Getting the ball out.
motive is to get rid of the ball fast. But at the same time, the collection of talent that's on that offensive line, and especially when your interior is built out of 3 Division II or less players, Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, Ali Marpet, it really speaks volumes. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Like the trenches, building inside out, no matter how much this game has evolved over the years in terms of favoring the offense, building inside out is still the way to go in my book, no matter how you want to, how it dices up.
100%. And I have to agree with that. I mean, I look at New Orleans and New Orleans is always.
New Orleans is all about trenches. They're all about physicality, man.
Yeah.
Like they're front 7 on defense. They're front 5 on offense. I mean, when they're healthy, like that's what it's all about. And that's why they've been so good since 2017.
That's what the Falcons are going to do this
It's been a continuously being able to address that. I look at Atlanta. There were times, when they were Super Bowl contenders. I remember when Tony Gonzalez was on this team, they had a above, I want to say above average, but they had a good offensive line, and they were able to keep your quarterback upright. And that was huge in what they were capable of doing, or what they were able to do. Carolina, the year that Cam Newton was the MVP, that offensive line, that defensive line in the trenches, they were able to keep their quarterback upright. And on the other side of the ball, they were able to get those 3 and outs and do what they needed to do. So no, it's not rocket science, but these teams have been able to do that, throughout the years.
I mean, it's the truth. I mean, like, football is actually not that hard. I mean, it is kind of complicated when you start trying to make all the calls and stuff, but really, to be honest, it's almost like the coaches are trying to trick us into thinking it's harder it is to make us feel cooler about them.
Gaslighting. That's the way to go these days. Just gaslighting.
Just throw it to the open guy. I know that's not easy. Run the ball, sack the quarterback, and don't get your quarterback sacked. But the offensive line is a mess. Our future is a mess right now, and I would be surprised. I'm telling you, I know I'm actually kind of a minority. I know all the fans say that they want to fire Matt Rule, but people don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Matt Rule's the coach. I think that what we made a giant mistake, and the mistake is not bringing in a college coach. I don't care about that superstition narrative of that, but what he did is he brought in a staff that is inexperienced as well.
Let me say this real
most
quick.
Experienced dude on our staff is Phil Snow, and he's probably the best coach on the staff at this time. But too much inexperience at all levels, and it's an adjustment, man, dealing with professional players. So I'm on the Greg Roman train right now already.
Let me say this, and you know what, Tony, you can relate to what I'm talking about here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went through multiple coaches. They went through multiple defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. There was so much influx with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but once they got that guy that they needed, once they got the defensive coordinator they needed, once they got the offensive coordinator they needed, it was a totally different situation. And I think that's kind of what you're looking at. And my concern is, and just we're all football fans talking about football here. You got to have somebody, you have to get behind him, and you have to go with what you go with. Continuously removing players or removing coaches and bringing somebody else in, and that inconsistency, going from Raheem Morris to what is
Greg
it?
Schiano.
Greg Schiano. Thank you.
I tend to remove, like, I pull that out of my ear and just like toss it aside.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
And
for
it's a
helping me out.
dirt cutter, though. I mean, sometimes you can get it wrong, though.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? What happens when you get it wrong?
Oh, it goes to hell real
I see
quick.
what you're saying.
Real quick.
I totally get what you're saying. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's where you have to circle your wagons behind somebody at some point.
Yeah, but at the same time, like what Tony's saying, Carolina going into last year, there was a lot to be excited about. But this year they've gone so far back. The future is in such question. I'm not trying to parrot what he's saying. Like, that's exactly how I felt just as a distance watching this team. Is, especially firing Joe Brady, like that was kind of what got the ball rolling in my mind. It's just, what in the hell does the future entail for this team, right? Especially when you don't have an answer at quarterback, you don't have an answer at left tackle, you do have an answer at cornerback in J.C. Horn if he's healthy, but still,
but he's hurt,
right? Yeah. Exactly, if he's healthy, right? So I mean, what direction do you go in after this year? And the fact that is completely unknown, that's a lot of reason to worry.
We're not used to our coaching staff panicking, bro. We have Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, man, could be in an airplane that's crashing to the ground, and he ain't shook at all.
No, Ron this guy out of cancer. Like, he ain't gonna get beat by nothing.
He doesn't get shook. Our team is panicking, man.
Yeah. Real quick.
Move on. Enough about the Panthers. I don't want to talk about them no more. I want to hear about y'all.
Let me go on record. Carolina Stadium is like my favorite stadium to go to. So, the stadium is awesome, man.
That's what every opposing teammate person says when they take over our stadium.
The Bucks never win there. So I'm talking like, I love the
Falcons,
the giant Panther statues, like all that stuff's really cool. I love Carolina Stadium.
I can say this is that. By the way, I was gonna say this is that. It's so damn expensive to go see a Carolina Panthers game. It's so business. It's a banking city and stuff like this. But it's funny. Like, other teams take over our stadiums. You watch Atlanta, no one goes there. You know what I'm saying? Like, all this stuff, and then so I Google because we're playing the damn Saints. Which that the Superdome gets rocking, but you guys are having a tough season yourself, and them people in a city where there's so much to do can probably be a little fickle when it comes to a losing season. I Googled this. I'm like, New Year's 2 days, January 2nd, so you can go New Year's Eve to New Orleans. As lower bowl tickets, dude, for like 16 rows up for like $130 in the end zone. And I was like, God, this costs like $500, $400 in Charlotte. I don't even want to go there. At least we get New Orleans. I'm thinking about going just to that game. Screw the.
Dude, I had no idea ticket prices were like that in Carolina.
Okay, so
all right, I gotta go get some more wine. You guys keep it going.
We're gonna keep this rolling here. Aaron, I'm gonna start with you, and Bob, think about this for a moment. As an outsider looking in at the Carolina Panthers, what are you seeing from the Carolina Panthers?
I mean, it's interesting because, like, they started off 3-0 this year.
Yeah,
everybody was excited.
They were on a roll.
They fixed Sam Darnold. They made the trades for C.J. Henderson and Stephon Gilmore, and it looked like everything was going for them at the beginning of the season. I was just sitting here sulking because the Falcons got off to the slow start in Carolina. Every move that they seemed to make this offseason seemed to be paying off for them. And then it just, the train derailed off the tracks not too long after that. And Sam Darnold, the New York Jets version of Sam Darnold, quickly showed up thereafter. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I think when you look at Carolina's situation, they have completely screwed the quarterback situation up. So bad. And, that Sam Darnold trade may go down in history as one of the worst trades a team has ever perpetuated.
I'm leaning towards that. I'm totally leaning.
Like, they didn't give up 3 first-round picks or anything like that, but they gave up a good bit of their draft. They're on the hook for like $18 million guaranteed next year.
Think about this: if you're a good talent evaluator, you could have made something out of this, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
And that situation where they gave him his 5th-year option sight unseen just is going to go down as a terrible decision.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I don't know what they're going to do. because they, as Tony has put it, they got to get the quarterback right. They got to get the offensive line right. Everything else about their team seems fine if they can solve those issues. So it doesn't feel like it's an insurmountable thing, but I get where Tony's coming from, where you don't necessarily have the trust in this coaching staff or this front office to do it right this time because they haven't done it right so far.
100%.
But, you can get lucky. That's what Bears fans hoped, where Ryan Pace has completely screwed up that team at the quarterback position. They just hope that Justin Fields is the guy that single-handedly comes in there and saves that franchise moving forward, and we'll see what that goes for them moving forward. But that's kind of the hope that if you have the Carolina Panthers, that you'll, I guess, just stumble on a good quarterback at some point in time.
That's what's gotta happen.
If we're being honest, that's what Tampa Bay did. They stumbled upon a good quarterback.
100%. And Bob, I want to get you involved in this. I want to get your thoughts on this as well.
Tony and I talk a lot, and I remember having the Sam Darnold conversation, and I won't lie, I was laughing at him. I love what the Carolina Panthers have done defensively. Their front seven doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I know everybody wants to focus on the cornerback position. There's all kinds of talent there, but that front seven, dude, that front line especially is for real. They are championship caliber. I love DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson as receivers, but you need somebody to throw them the ball. That offense's success hinged on the delicate health of Christian McCaffrey. And when he went down, it was also what's that?
I said exactly. You were spot on with that.
And as a Saints fan, we know what that's like when you're hanging your hat on the delicate health of one individual. And I'm not saying Christian McCaffrey is the NFL's best player, but he's the Carolina Panthers offensive key when you don't have a quarterback. And
he's a game changer.
And Bridgewater is heads and shoulders above Sam Darnold. This is not I don't remember which one of you gentlemen said it. It's not the New York Jets version of Sam Darnold that the Carolina Panthers got. It's Sam Darnold. He's the problem. Bridgewater isn't necessarily a championship caliber quarterback, but he's a quarterback that can win with the talent that they have if they protect him. I completely agree with what Tony said, and an offensive line needs to be addressed. You guys over there in Atlanta, you know that. You've seen Matt Ryan get killed for years. Tony's seen Cam Newton, excuse me. Cam has got to have 2 decades taken off of his life. With the beating that he has taken. Now you're going to
real quick. Let me jump in here real quick. You look at what Lovie Smith did to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line. He blew the whole offensive line up, and it took him 5 years to get to where they are, or even remotely where they are.
Well, at least you were trying. At least you were trying to get an offensive line. You know what I'm saying? You know what we tried to do? We tried to kill. What team has ruined one player's career twice in his own life? The Carolina Panthers ruined Cam Newton's life twice in his own. How you ruin somebody's career twice? I mean, we haven't picked. All right, very simple as this. We haven't picked a offensive lineman in the top 3 rounds. Actually, we've put some bums in the second. We put Greg Little. We traded up for him. Taylor Moton, who's been all right, but we haven't addressed it. And every time we have, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't. What do you expect? You can't expect the offensive line to be good when you don't put any draft capital into it or any money into it. So
100%.
So that's it.
You can invest in the offensive line and still be bad. That's the story.
I'm about to say the Falcons, Caleb McGarry. Yeah, I mean,
but then doesn't that come back to talent evaluation to some degree?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, everything comes down to talent evaluation at the end of the day. I mean, because based off what's happening in front of you, you then decide what player that you have on your board best fits your team according to who's left, according to what teams are still picking, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, talent evaluation has everything to do with it at the end of the day. But also there are things like injuries, regression, I mean, coaching changes that also happen to factor in to where, there are certain elements that are out of your control. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, The baseline is how
Evan,
you evaluate your talent.
And what's interesting, Evan, that you talk about that. When you talk about regression and how that works into it, what about players that fit into a scheme? I mean, and I do want to kind of go over here to the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints came into it started out as kind of turmoil a little bit when you move from a future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, and you go to a guy that you're invested in Jameis Winston, and then you have that injury with Jameis Winston, and then you're kind of in flux, and then you look at the offensive, the offense as a whole, and you have a guy that's supposed to be available, but he's not because of injury in Michael Thomas. I mean, what does this team really look like? I mean, moving forward as a organization, how do the New Orleans Saints look in 2022?
I tell you what I'm looking forward to in 2022. I'm looking forward to season 4 of Cobra Kai on New Year's Eve and the second half of Walking Dead. The final season of Walking Dead. Listen,
new Matrix coming out next week. Spider-Man came out today. Exactly. It's the only people up here able to talk about football are the Bucs fans.
That's right. Listen, have you guys? And I am not going to use this as an excuse, but have you guys ever seen a team so beaten up by injuries on both sides of the ball? I am pretty sure I tore my rotator cuff and blew out my knee twice this season writing about them.
But hey, the Tennessee Titans are going through some shit right now. That's for sure. Their injury reports almost represent like encyclopedia pages these days.
Page 1 of 3 kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, and we knew that the offseason personnel losses that the Saints suffered because of mainly the salary cap were going to affect the depth of this team. But I'll tell you who I blame for the offensive difficulties, and that is the visor on the sideline, Sean Payton. And
really?
Sean Payton. Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. Sean Payton is my favorite coach in the NFL, and there is no more perfect coach for the Saints team. To retool. I don't think it takes a rebuild, but I'll tell you why it's his fault. It's not the quarterback position. It's certainly not the offensive line. It's the wide receiver position. The wide receiver spot is probably the position least affected by injuries this year, outside of Thomas. But one man goes down, and the entire world goes to shit. Yeah. I'm going to read you guys a couple of things. There are 28 teams have had at least 2 100-yard receiving games this year. And 3 other teams have had 1: Jacksonville, Detroit, New England. The Saints are the only team without a wide receiver or tight end to catch at least 90 yards in a game this year. The Saints are the only team without a 300-yard passing game. In this day and age, in Sean Payton, the almighty Sean Payton's offense, those are just mind-boggling statistics. And we saw trouble coming. The last couple years when the Saints have been beaten in the playoffs, all it took was for a team to control Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and a declining Drew Brees had nowhere to go with the football. He was no longer that guy that could make bad receivers average, good, great, etc. He was a guy that needed a supporting cast. Now, Sean did a great job of that supporting cast with the offensive line and remaking that defense, but there are no receivers to throw the football to. I love Deontay Harris as a complementary weapon. I love Marquez Callaway as a complementary weapon. There's no secondary guy to Thomas. And when Thomas went down, you were asking number 3, number 4 wide receivers to step up into number 1 roles, and they are just frankly not that good. This team, this team is in trouble down the stretch. I think they have enough tools to win 3 of their last 4 and sneak into the playoffs. But that's only if they play the type of game where they just take you into a phone booth and beat the hell out of you, because they can't outscore you.
So let me ask you this real quick. you lost Drew Brees and Joe Lombardi this year. I mean, those three, including Sean Payton, had been around together since what, 2008, 2009?
6.
I mean, that's two. Yeah. How much do you think that loss has affected things? Joe Lombardi specifically.
It's huge. I don't think enough people are making a big enough deal about Lombardi's departure. Because Sean is the czar.
Look what the Chargers offense is doing right now.
Exactly. Exactly. And Joe Lombardi was basically Peyton's coordinator within the coordinator. Lombardi was Peyton's kind of eyes and ears during the week while Peyton put in the game plan. Peyton is the offensive czar, but that entire staff is the backbone that makes it go. And it's enough when you're replacing a legend at quarterback. And I actually do think the offense and Jameis Winston himself was starting to come along before that injury, even with all the shorthand, being so shorthanded. But it was going to be an adjustment period nonetheless. And then Jameis went down, and you had to turn to a third string quarterback in Trevor Siemian while you're still getting to know your offensive staff. This had disaster written all over it.
Dude, I honestly think if Jameis stays healthy in that Bucs game, I don't think Tampa Bay ever has a chance to come back in that game. I think they win that game by at least two possessions, no problem. I know they won by 2 possessions either way, but it doesn't take PJ Williams to get to that 9-point mark. I think the way Jameis was playing, and maybe he was just zeroed in for that game, because obviously
and I'm going to jump
in. Things were working too well, way too well.
And I think that Sean Payton was saving him from himself, to your point, Evan, because of the way that Jameis Winston was playing, during that game. I think there were a couple things in play here. And I think the most important thing was that Sean Payton was not wanting Jameis Winston to be the reason they lost that game.
He was making plays that entire. He would tuck the ball and run. I remember that 20-yard run or whatever he had on 4th down or 3rd down, whatever it was. The dude was dialed in, and you could tell just leading up to that game too. Just the effects that Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton. Okay, so last year or coming into this year, I had Sean Payton as the best coach in the NFL. But now what Belichick has done with Mac Jones, obviously, I think he's regained that top spot. Sean Payton's a top 3 coach in the NFL. And this year the Saints have been beat up by injuries. The Bucs have suffered their own fair share amount of injuries, but nothing like the Saints have or the Titans have, or even a few other teams have. So it's been a tough year, man. But the fact that they're still, I know the Falcons are ahead of them by 1 spot in the playoff race, but the fact that they're still actually in the playoff race right now, it
speaks volumes.
Total testament. Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Okay. Oh, it does. And I don't want you guys to think that the fan base or even myself is soured on Sean Payton at all. I just think he just did the most egregious mistake he made was completely ignoring the wide receiving core in recent seasons. Thinking that he could patch it up, with undrafted free agents, which is basically what all of these guys are. Look it up. Everybody but Traquan Smith has been an undrafted free agent in that receiving core or undrafted collegiate player. Exactly. I think Sean has learned his lesson. And again, to your point, I don't think there are many other coaches that want to face Sean Payton in a must-win situation. Because he's that damn good. He's learned from this mistake, and I guarantee you that the Saints are going to concentrate a lot more on the receiving position. This offseason. But you might be breaking in a new quarterback too, which will take 5, 6, 8 games to get used to your system as well in 2022.
Honestly, I gotta say, hold on real quick. I gotta say, honestly, Sean Payton's biggest mistake is allowing Kevin James to portray him in the news. Sorry. That's so true. Sorry. I'm a dad these days. I had to throw in the dad joke. My bad.
So real quick, Bob, how confident are you that Michael Thomas plays next season? Ken Barrett KB is asking this question, not for the Saints, but in general. It sounds like whatever is happening is lingering with him. So it's not just what's going on this season, but just his career as a whole moving forward.
I'll tell you, and I saw the comment, and thank you, KB. I love you. I think what happened with Thomas, he delayed extra surgeries that ankle needed. First of all, he made the leg worse just by playing last year, when really he should have stepped aside and said, I need to hang it up for the season physically. It's a testament to his toughness that he stayed on the field. You guys saw him in that Buccaneer playoff game. I mean, he was operating on literally one leg, and nothing more but a limping decoy. So that's going to put a serious monkey wrench into your off-season rehabilitation. And then the news came out that Thomas continued to put off surgery, and ignore the reports that he missed rehab assignments. That's untrue. What he did do was try to rehab on his own instead of going in for surgery sooner than what he needed to. And when it finally became apparent, now this thing is not going to heal itself. It needs more surgeries, and I believe it was 2. And the second of which, or maybe first of 2, occurred in July on the eve before training camp. Well, when you have basically essentially reconstructive surgery on the eve of training camp, I mean, the 5 of us, we aren't rocket scientists. No offense to you 4. I know I'm not, so I'll take that back.
I'm far from it. Probably at the bottom of the totem pole here.
You have reconstructive surgery on any body part, you're out for the year. Yeah. So I'm not concerned about Michael Thomas being back for next year. He's a worker. And I think he's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder. I'm not worried about whether he's going to be in a New Orleans Saints uniform. I think that's a given. The relationship between he and Peyton, there was some miscommunication there between the rehab and putting off surgery thing. That has been that has been ironed out a long time ago. And Thomas is going to come back in great shape.
And this goes back to what I'm saying. Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, NFC South. This is where you want to get your information from. Not from ESPN, not from CBS Sports, not from NFL Network. You want to get your information here where it's people are invested in their teams. And they're not just going to BS you about something, but they're going to tell you, okay, this is what you may need to look at. This is what you may need to research. And I'm comfortable with this because what I found, and just from Tampa during the Super Bowl run last year, there were people that didn't know scenarios that were going on in Tampa. And I was like, okay, let me think about this for a minute. And I go back to the New Orleans Saints. I go back to Michael Thomas. And I think I talked about this early on. Michael Thomas, there was this big blow up allegedly that, according to NFL Network and some of your other networks, that Michael Thomas had an issue with the New Orleans Saints, and it wasn't true.
Right.
So to me, when I'm looking at all this, I'm like, you know what? Why don't you go to where people are invested in this? Why don't you go to the Bob Roses, to the Tony Dunns, to the Aaron Freemans, to the Evan Winters, and get the facts. There's no narratives here. People are going to tell you. I mean, you listen to Tony talking about the Carolina Panthers, and I'm 100% comfortable with what he's saying because he's been through all this. He's been through the ups and downs. He's seen this. Aaron Freeman been through the ups and downs and seen what the Atlanta Falcons has done. And the one thing I can appreciate about all you guys on this panel is you're not like, oh, well, this and this and this. You're not making excuses, but you're just saying, okay, this is what it is. This is exactly what it is. And I can appreciate that. And real quick, I do want to get over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because, Evan, I haven't forgot about you, bro. Thank you for contributing. Thank you.
Hey, man, I'm redheaded. I'm used to being forgotten. It's okay.
Thank you, all you guys, for contributing. But I do want to talk about, because we do have a big time game coming up. Huge game with the New Orleans Saints and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this has implications, as far as like number 1 seed, number 2 seed. this will affect the playoffs, this game right here. So I want to get your thoughts on where Tampa is and how are things going?
I mean, it immediately affects the postseason. It immediately affects Tampa Bay's shot at getting their first division title since 2007. If they win this weekend, they wrap up the NFC South. If they don't, they've got to win next weekend against the Panthers going into the last 4 weeks of the season, or last 3 weeks of the season, rather. Sorry, I apologize. And right now, I mean, if you're looking at Tampa Bay's injury reports with Antoine Winfield Jr. missing practice the last 2 days, with Jamel Dean still fighting his illness, with Richard Sherman, even though he really hasn't been a part of the team until last week, outside of those first 2 games he played, there's a lot to be concerned about going into this game, especially when you throw on top of the fact that Bruce Arians is 0-5 against the Saints in his career as a Buck. Tom Brady is 0-3. Tom Brady, going after the Week 8 loss, had thrown 7 of his 17 interceptions as a Buck against the Saints. Yep. I literally asked him after that loss, I said, hey, what are they doing that gives you so much trouble? He looked at me and he said, bad throws. So you can kind of garner where Tom Brady is whenever he goes up against the Saints, and they've got to overcome some regular season demons this week, and it's not a guarantee at all. Now, granted, should they win? Yes, just based off of where the Saints are in terms of health on their roster. Like, it has nothing really to do with matchups. Just right now, Tampa Bay, in terms of health, is the better team. But if these guys like Antoine Winfield Jr., Jamel Dean, Richard Sherman, and then Leonard Fournette, who also has missed the last 2 days. I mean, if they don't play, that's huge, and it's going to make this game a toss-up. So there's a lot.
Real quick, and I have to address this. Antonio Brown, is he a Buccaneer?
Man, in my opinion, no. I don't think he should. You look at Kareem Hunt, when he deliberately lied to the Chiefs, he was immediately cast out. Now, granted, that was an act of violence, him kicking the woman in the hotel lobby. But still, at the end of the day, Antonio Brown manipulated. He lied to the Bucs. He made them look like absolute jackasses in front of the entire nation. Bruce Arians literally came out and said, everything is good. We checked these cards. They're fine. A week or 2 later, Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards, and then John Franklin, who obviously is not on the team right now, is serving a 3-game suspension for fake cards.
Somebody needs to get after that chef, dude. It was that personal chef. Yeah, snitches.
I mean, bro, he was up to 10 grand at the end of the day. I mean, hell, if and who knows if that guy said, "Hey, give me my 10 grand," and I won't. I mean,
that's exactly what happened. Because nobody knows if them cards are real or not. They just like a piece of paper somebody wrote on. You can buy them off of eBay.
The dude's an absolute snake. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The dude's an absolute snake. But at the same time, I can also see Antonio Brown saying, "No, I'm not going to give you the money I owe you."
Hell yeah, he said that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Antonio Brown's been known to skate so many people out of the money he owes them. Like, I can see him just saying, "Prove it, punk." You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and then sure enough, dude proved it.
It's kind of a Geno Smith deal, huh?
I mean, but dude, like, either way, he lied to the team. He manipulated the team.
Tom Brady got his back though.
Yeah, well, I mean, even then, the goal.
It was probably Tom Brady's personal chef.
It's Giselle. Giselle's behind all of it. Yeah, she's running. But no, like, I mean, Tom Brady, the golden boy, the guy who smashed his cell phone when he was getting investigated for Deflategate. Maybe there is something behind it. Who knows? But
he probably sold him the card.
Yeah, who knows? And like, let me say this: if I were to like post my COVID vaccine card that I have personally, it literally looks like a 6th grader filled my card out. So
it does. So does mine.
I don't know where it goes, but either way, you have somebody who deliberately lied. It reminds me of the Lion King. Simba, you deliberately disobeyed me. Like, you're going to that range. Like, he lied to the team. He wanted to fake them out. how can you have that person on your team?
Didn't he finally get
Who cares? He still lied about it. Then get it done.
It don't matter. Y'all got Brashard Breeland, yo, or Perryman. No, you got Perryman.
Setting your house on fire and then be like, oh wait, I found the fire hydrant. Let me put the fire out. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like,
I'm so mad about this Perryman thing. All right, so you guys, the Bills come back in this game. You're about to squander this to go to overtime. And what's his name?
Rashad Perryman, man. The same guy Bucs fans wanted to be cut in 2019. And then
this dude caught a last-minute Hail Mary against my ECU Pirates when I was in college. That ruined our chance, I think, to go to a bowl game that year or something. Like, it was terrible. And then he goes first-round pick. This mug gets hurt his whole life.
Yeah.
Hurt his whole life. Goes to the Jets. Can't catch nothing. Right. And all of a sudden, this dude gets with Tom Brady and winning football games. Man,
Jameis Winston gave him his contract with the Jets, man. Let's be honest.
I can vouch for Rashad Perryman balling out with Jameis.
Yeah, he balled out in 2019, especially against the Falcons. I mean, yeah, but Aaron, I bet you remember that last game. I mean,
don't do this to me, because you know what? He was on the field when they threw that pick six, that walk-off pick six, that Atlanta won that game.
Oh, come on.
That
was Deion Jones all day, man. That was Deion Jones all day.
I need to say this because I'm still upset about this. Atlanta, walk-off pick six into the game.
Deion just said, I'm taking this home.
Let me say this, because when Tom Brady came into Tampa, I was still mad because Atlanta got a walk-off pick six thanks to Jameis Winston. I was still mad about that. So I couldn't appreciate Tom Brady coming in to be a Buccaneer. I was still mad because Atlanta got a walk-off pick six.
Hey, it turned out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to the Bucs.
I cried real tears, by the way. I'm still upset about, but
I thought it was funny that Evan said that he thought, if Jameis had stayed healthy in that earlier game this season, that the Bucs or the Saints would have blew out the Bucs, because I'm like, no, Jameis would have thrown like 3 picks in the second half of the game.
I don't know, man. I don't know. He was using his legs. Wow. He was taking the check downs. I don't know, man. I get what you're saying, because at the same time, this I can't remember his name, but this one guy who writes for ESPN was right next to me at that game. I was at that game. I call it the press view, because obviously the Saints, they don't have the press box, like it's all open and all that stuff. But the entire time, these two guys that wrote for ESPN next to me were like, "When's the first pick? When's the pick coming? When's the pick coming?" Like, oh, this is gonna be like,
I get the mentality. That's the whole thing. You knew it was gonna happen.
I don't know though. In that game, he was making so many good decisions. Like, I can't sit here and say, based off what I saw up until Devin White drug him down, that he would have lost the game. There is a chance. There is definitely a chance, but based on what he was doing, I can't sit here and say that.
Do you know how Daniel Jones? What is it? Daniel Jones, Denny Dimes became Denny Dimes because they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There would be no Danny Dimes. There would be no Danny Dimes if the Giants had played some other team. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Just because of everything the way everything happened.
I mean, no, he does pretty well against the Redskins, so he probably could earn it against the Redskins.
This is true. Well, guys, thank you so much. I hope we can do this next month. I really do. The month of January. You guys are amazing. Aaron, thank you so much. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Do you have any articles coming out?
Yeah, I'm supposed to have an article coming out this week. I haven't started working on it. So, yeah, hopefully there'll be something up at the Falcoholic.
My guy here.
Instead of writing on it.
You know why he's saying it like that? Because he's going to pound out like a 7,000-word article. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's going to be. It's like, oh, I didn't start working on my thesis yet.
So, Falcoholic.com. Hopefully there'll be something up in the next day or two about this week 15 matchup. But until then, you can sort of find me every day on Locked On Falcons, any podcast platform. We're now on YouTube.
Please follow this man. Please follow him. Please.
He does great work. He really does.
He really does.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I can appreciate about you, Aaron, is that you're not like, oh, well, the Falcons are the best team in the world and everybody's.
He won't ever say that, bro. Don't worry. You ain't ever got to worry. These guys can be. They can win 14 games this year, and he'd be like, "Well, I don't know if it's any good."
He's totally humble. I appreciate that. That's what I'm saying. If there's a problem that needs to be fixed with the Atlanta Falcons, this guy's gonna tell you about it.
He'll find it.
Exactly. Totally exactly. All right. And Evan. Yeah, I said Aaron. Aaron.
Hey, same syllables. It's all good.
It's all good. Hey, it's tough to follow up.
Sports Illustrated allbucks.com at Evan_winter on Twitter. And then every now and then when I like to talk about the Tennessee Volunteers, RockyTopTalk.com. It's so many consonants just back to back to back and with that. But yeah, so and then Believe in Bucks podcast on Believe.com.
Yeah, we gotta believe it. And exactly. Bob, my guy, I love your work. I love your content. Thank you so much for taking time to come on here and tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. And let's get your final thoughts.
Folks, gentlemen, again, thank you for having me join you. All of you are great. Tony, Gene, I know you guys really well. I love you all, but I hate your teams.
You need to work on your decision making too with the New Orleans team. Just saying.
Yeah, I realize, and I think I felt a twinge in my shoulder again when I said that, so I might be a game time decision for Sunday. But you can find me on Facebook, Bob Rose, over on Twitter at BobbyR2613, and I do write for the Saints News Network at Saints News on Twitter, or we do all the New Orleans Saints coverage for the SI.com team page. All of you guys that do follow me, whether you love the Saints or from one of you guys' fan base, I appreciate all your support and I love you for it. I wouldn't be doing this without you.
100%. And last but not least, I do want to say this: Southbound and Down is an icon to me as far as the NFC South. I've seen some other shows, I dismiss them. Southbound and Down, I really wish right now, with the way social media is, with the way we're doing things, Southbound and Down should have had a place at the table, to be honest. And
it still could. It's a lot easier to stream now. You know what I'm saying? Like when we first started on these streets of these podcasting games, none of the stuff was integrated, and it was harder for people to do this stuff. And now you can just send a link to people, and it's a little bit easier. But it's been fun. I gotta say this: I do agree with Bob. I like y'all, but like this kid said, he called into our podcast. He said this. Could y'all hear that?
No.
You didn't hear it at all?
Yeah, crickets. Yeah, it was all crickets.
Crickets. Here, let me check this one. This way.
Fuck you, Saints.
How about that? That's what happens on our podcast.
That is. You want to talk about building from the inside out? That's how you build from the inside out.
The parent has got the Parent of the Year award, in my opinion. Wish he would have said the Falcons. Nah, I love you guys. Like you said, hate your teams. I hate my team more at the moment. I feel like Aaron.
Yeah.
I feel like Aaron, man. Is that this dude, like, he ain't ever happy about his team ever since I've known him. I've known him like 8 years on this game. But
I was happy for 3 quarters in one particular night, and then they ruined it.
It's so funny. If y'all would have talked to me 2 years ago, I would have hated my team more than I hate myself. So it kind of goes that way. That's funny. It's funny how the world works.
He's working for you, bro. No, I'm just kidding. You know what is that? Look, we do the C3 Panthers podcast. It's live on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m.
I never miss it.
Yeah, YouTube, everywhere you get your stuff at. It's syndicated later on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, where everybody's doing their podcast. So just Google the C3 Panthers podcast. We drop, post-game show. We got this new thing that we've been doing called Debate My Take, where my co-host and I go after each other, kind of like our version of PTI, but a little bit more focused on the Panthers, NFL, and then one random ass question. What did we do? Last week we debated. We always do one off topic. Next week, I know I want to debate whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and it certainly is.
There's no debate here. It is.
I agree. But some weirdos think it's not. But no, we do that, and we got a lot of content coming out, but we just trying to figure out how to build. Right now, look, is that we saw Pat McAfee sign this big, giant $30 million a year deal with FanDuel. Now, obviously, he has his ends with the NFL because he's a former NFL player, but we're all supporting the decentralization of news up here on YouTube. So, like you were saying, Gene, is like if you really want to know about these teams and what, we're so inward looking sometimes that we just look at our own teams so much. So I check out all you guys when we're about to play each other. I hit you up in the DMs when I got questions and stuff like that. So you can find me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles, and I'll hate the Saints. I'll hate the Falcons. I'm starting to hate the Bucks. I hate y'all. I said this.
Well, y'all kicked our ass for so long. Like, there's no reason to.
Oh man, shit, for real. Cam Newton.
I'll never forget when the Panthers broke Martin Gramatica in 2003. Like, ever since then, it's just it's been an upward trajectory.
That's my favorite game against the Bucks ever. Is we won. I think we won that game. We didn't score
12 to 9. You blocked the extra point for us to win. We won in overtime. Yeah, I remember. As a 14-year-old, like, you think 14-year-olds get stressed out by girls in high school and grades? No, the fucking Panthers are.
Chris Jenkins gave you nightmares, homie. Chris Jenkins, that big mean man was coming after. So we'll be back.
I'll never forget.
It's funny because I have memories from all of these teams. The Atlanta Falcons,
Dwayne White's block.
The Atlanta Falcons hung 50 on the Bucks on a Thursday night game, and I was like, it took me weeks to get over that one.
I'll never forget Dwayne White's field goal block against the Falcons in 2005, I think, or 2005. Maybe it might have been 2003. Either way, but it sent the game into overtime. Tampa Bay ended up winning, and then of course with the Saints. I mean, God, there's so many games with the Saints. I'm not even going to get into that because obviously we're trying to sign off here, so I'm not going to keep it.
Yeah, we'll have to kneecap you like the Saints do to everybody.
Tanya Harding style, baby. Let's get it done.
There you go. Well, guys, I hope this was fun for everybody. If you didn't, this was great. Atlanta, Carolina, Saints, Tampa, everybody got to get theirs in, and this was fun. And I want to be able to do this again. I want to, at the end of the season, I want to see where everybody's at or where everybody thinks their team is at. And, just kind of go from there because this was awesome. And again, I want to let everybody know, Bob, Aaron, Evan, Tony, I respect you guys and I appreciate your contribution to this show because, I respect that. So, I don't want to say good luck because I really don't care. But I really, at the end of the
YouTube channels, Mugs. Terrible luck to your.
Exactly. At the end of the season, I want us all to get together and, keep in mind, I want you to think about your best play because I want to do some kind of awards, for the Saints, for Carolina, for Atlanta, for Tampa. This is what we did best, or this is what we could have done best, or something like that. I want to get with you guys at the end of the year, season's over, and just get your thoughts on everything. So, keep that in mind. We're going to do this again. Southbound and Down. We're going to bring this back. I don't know if it's going to be on C3 podcast or how it's going to work. I'm going to get with Tony, but I do want to revive this because I think the fans deserve something like this.
Love it.
Man. Hopefully the best is yet to come for everybody when it comes
100%.
to what we guys talk about.
Great. Can only get better. Better right now. Good God. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys. We are out. I'm going to go get me something to eat. You know what? NFC South is killing it.